Hey guys, it's Untitled here for another week of the competitive TFT Reddit recap. And this week, there are a little bit less posts because there were a few that I'd want to talk about. And then once we got this big bombshell of a post that's coming up, a lot of things became not relevant anymore or not really important to talk about because this is it. This is what most of this Reddit recap is going to be about. What I'm referring to, if you haven't heard of it already, because of all the open forwarding and the weird kind of meta we've been sitting in for the last, feels like a month or so. I think it's actually a month or so because of the Riot break, is streaks are being changed and headliners are being changed. Streaks are being changed for if two people are complete open forwarding, or it's like training dummy and they both have a training dummy and it ends up with a tie, or in the rare situation where late game a fight ends in a tie, both streaks reset to 0. So punishes open forwarders, as well as what is going to punish open forwarders even more. Gold for streaking has been adjusted for +1 for 2-3, +2 for 5, to +3 for 5. Or yeah, 1 streak, 2 streak, 3 streak. Oh god, it's going all over the place. And now streaking is +1 gold for a 3-4 streak, +2 gold for a 5 streak, and +3 gold for a 6 streak. Which essentially you are paying a whole lot more health to get less gold or to get gold less quickly, and holding long streaks is going to be rewarded more, but it's going to be harder to get that additional gold. And the other major rule we're going to talk about before we jump into kind of the general census of what these things are going to change is the headliner rule. So that thing you were keeping in mind where if half the copies were out of the pool for any value of headliner, you wouldn't see the headliner in your shop anymore. That rule is completely gone. And from the post from Mort on Twitter, the only important thing is, and I'm going to read the quote directly, if you have more than 4 copies of a 4 cost or 3 copies of a 5 cost, the headliner can't appear for you. So it's based on your units, which ends up making me think we're going to be in an interesting place where more people are going to be able to have headliners of the same unit, which will be interesting and I think will help a lot of the issues with front lines right now, because it seems like it's very difficult to build up a strong front line if you're not the first person to get there, especially with the 4 cost or 3 cost Sentinel headliners, which Sentinels are like the core of front lines for pretty much everything, because bruisers are moshers are sometimes okay. Like a set plus Poppy plus York is going to be able to headline as well, but just because there's so few units that 8 players have to share, and the headliner rules where people could get to 8 first, hit a headliner Mordekaiser, hit a headliner Poppy, hit a headliner Blitz, and then it's just like, okay, you're never going to get Blitz too. So I think that's going to make that a little bit easier to stabilize and give a lot more flexibility on what people are able to play, or at least what people are able to play as a back line, because the front lines will be a little bit easier to stabilize. But circling back to the first point, I've got a couple of notes here. Of course, this has been the main discussion around this, that open forwarding in this current open forwarding meta is basically dead, because the amount of health you're going to lose from full streaking is not going to be worth the amount of gold you get. And also, if 2 people are open forwarding and they run into each other and they reset each other's streaks, you've lost all that health for nothing. So that is going to pretty much kill that. I think it's going to slow down the race to Fast 8. We're going to talk about a little bit more of the economic effects of this change as well. Like I was saying before, frontliner, headliner is more enticing because you'll be more easily able to hit it even if they're completely out of the pool. If there's no rules, then I wonder if there just has to be 3. No more half copies rule. Yeah, I'm going to hope there's some clarification, or I guess we'll get it as it maybe in the official patch notes themselves. Headliner rules were kind of just not really explicitly stated previously before, so there's a likelihood that they're not going to be explicitly stated again, which would kind of suck. But say multiple people have headliners of a unit, are you still going to see, like if 2 people already have, I guess there's 12 blitzes in the pool. No, there's 10 blitzes in the pool. So if 3 people already have headliner blitz, by the explicit rules that Mort has laid out here, someone with that 1 remaining blitz that is there could get a headliner blitz. Potentially. I don't know. I'm going to double check I'm going to double check. No, we're not going to. No spoilerinos for the post coming up. I don't think he says anything specifically about this. The rule about half copies is gone. It will be removed. The only headline rule you need to say a lot of stress about things worrying about speed. Yeah. So it's from rules as written. There could be 4 people with Blitz headliner. If we're keeping the old unit has to be in the pool to show up in a shop, and that there's no specific rule for a headliner. That is interesting. I think that is probably better for the game. Still requires you the scout to make sure you're not rolling for a 3-star 4 cost to like win the game off of something that someone else already has. But I think that's going to be interesting. But I was saying, I think the frontline headliner is more enticing. Is the frontline headliner more enticing? I put these little question marks next to this because I kind of wanted to ponder this and kind of walk through it with y'all. I just think in general it allows more people to play the same thing, which I'm not sure is better or worse, or at least allows more people to play the same headliner. And of course, full streaking is way less important. I think if you're able to get for a full win streak, that's going to be really good. Full loss streaking, I think, is going to be a whole lot less worth it because you're losing a whole lot more HP for less of a payoff, or if your streak gets broken. Like, I'm the king of 4. I'm streaking into right before the round before PvE, and then I either win or lose there and mess up my streak. That will be devastating if you're on a lose streak. If you win on one of those rounds, your game is ruined, which is going to suck, and I think is going to largely cause people to play for win streak and only go for full lose streak if there's a near perfect possibility they're going to be able to continue it, which is interesting with the Heartsteel changes combined with that, which is something we're also going to talk about in a little bit. But generally, I think it is good that open forting is gone. I don't think that is a hot take by anyone, or at least open forting to the extent where you have 2 to 4 players per lobby open forting after they've lost on 2-1 or lost on 2-1 into 2-2. That just didn't feel great, and especially because the game is then decided on who streaks well in stage 2 and then who hits the headline or roll down when they fast 8, which felt not too great. So I think we're going to be more in a strongest board meta, which I think is thankfully very good for my personal playstyle. There was another interesting perspective on this. Groupie made a post after these changes were announced. And again, you can click the link to go to their post. But the general points of it is because streaking is going to be less prevalent and you're going to have to streak for longer to get the gold, which makes it more likely that people aren't going to be full loss streaking for sure. And by that measure, if less people are playing their weakest board to be able to full loss streak, more people are going to be playing strongest board, which means there's probably going to be more shorter streaks because people are going to spike based on what shows up naturally in their shops, which all adds up to there being less gold in the game, which makes gold more valuable because it is a more precious resource. The way that Goofy goes with this is saying that econ augments would be stronger. There's less incentive to push levels and more incentive to grade econ. I'm not sure about the first one. I do think econ augments are going to be stronger than they are currently. I don't think they're very strong just in general currently. I would love to pull up the Stat Explorer or the just general augment stats and see if that is backed up. So let's go augments. Let's bring this over here. We'll go augments. We'll go gold. So we get like the biggest sample size. We'll go master plus. And we'll go on this patch. We'll go by best ones at 2-1. Lucky Streak, it's like a pseudo combat. It's a pseudo econ augment. Escort Quest is, again, like you get physical stats for it, but you also get money for it. I think Escort Quest is just generally a really good one. What doesn't kill you is a loose streak augment. Yeah, I'm not seeing Spoils of War is, again, one of those sort of ones where Spoils of War gives you the ability to play a stronger board because the stronger board gets more spoils from killing units. So it's, again, like one of those, it's not really like a pure econ augment. Where's like the more gold from the jump? Like I'm not seeing that anywhere. Metabolics all the way down here. Stars Are Born is a econ augment, I would say, especially because you get 5 gold with it now. It's like you get the 1 cost, 2 cost, and 5 gold, and that's down here. Golden tickets in econ augment, it's down here. Low play rate. Low interest rates. I wonder if low interest rates is going to get better. I know it's real bad right now. Made it to Diamond 8. Let's go. Let's go, Nato. Yeah. But where's the one I'm looking for? The like pure Rich Get Richer was the one I'd be looking for. But Rich Get Richer 2 being all the way down there, or Rich Get Richer on the second pick, balanced budget being 4.6. Like, I don't think econ augments are good right now. So I do agree with the statement that, let's go back. I do agree. Oh my God. One more time. I should just use these. I do agree with the statement that econ augments are going to be stronger. However, I don't think they're stronger right now. Less incentive to push levels, 1000% agree, because you generally want to push levels to defend streaks. And if the streaks are less valuable, or it's more risky to defend that streak, to spend that money to level, it is less useful to do that. Like if I'm in a spot, it is the round before PvE, I have 3 Mr. 100s in my ability to play against, and I'm defending a full win streak, and I have the option to level and lose maybe 1 econ, 2 econ, versus not level, potentially get up to 50, sell some units if I lose. It's going to be that safer play every time because, again, gold is more valuable and streaks less valuable. It's going to set up a lot of interesting situations. That kind of situation right there really concerns me because one of the things I believe, high roll or lose, my last note on here, where it's like whoever hits the units that are good, or at least the units they're trying to play with the least gold, is going to be able to win, because staying above and getting to that 50 mark as soon as possible is going to be very important. I believe they mentioned this in their post as well, that econ starts are going to be really good. Like if you get a full gold start and then you get your items at first PvE round, that's going to be incredible as well, because you'll just be able to have 50 econ. You'll be able to have that full gold before everyone else, and you're going to get your items eventually. So that's going to be incredibly strong. I am concerned. I talked about this last recap and when we were talking about the Heartsteel changes before, that Heartsteel, in its current iteration with the open forwarding, a lot of people are playing Heartsteel. Like if you're offered Heartsteel opener, you're almost always playing that. I don't know. I don't think with a good combat augment that should always be the case. I'm not sure about that statement. Let me think about that for a second. If I was offered Underground on 2-1 and I had the possibility to play it, no. Okay, I think that's actually, that's a dumb statement. But it shouldn't feel required to top 4. I think that's the caveat I'll add to that. Like, it should be good enough that if you're offered it, you want to play it. But I'm concerned with this extra gold, the less gold that's going to be in because of streaks, that the players who hit Heartsteel, instead of it now being like a really good bonus to help you fund your Fast 8 roll down, it is going to be a near requirement if you don't super high roll. Yeah, and that's kind of those 2 points there. The first one, actually, how will the meta react, of my question I'm posing, is probably the weakest, that strongest board and scout sweating. I don't think positioning diffs are that necessary. I guess there's not a lot of frontline carries in the meta right now, Jax being the notable exception, and Katarina I feel like I don't see too much, nor do I see Yone reroll anymore. If the frontline builds with the other general changes that are happening become more popular, maybe it'll be incredibly more scout sweating for matchups and boards. I think you can still probably light scout, and you just want to, again, you should be scouting every round. But if you're having to defend a win streak the sweat scouting will happen more. But I think we're more likely going to see, I guess we might see people with just like a full Mr. 100 full streak through the game because they're the only one generating that additional win streak gold. But I do think loss streak is pretty much dead. Yeah, but I do think strongest sport, I agree that is, at least at the beginning, is going to be what most people should or are going to take the idea and play. Scout sweating, we'll see, depending on what's strong. But I think, and we'll get back to this at the end of today's presentation, I do think the meta is going to change drastically. I mean, it's been a pretty stagnant and solved meta because we've been on the same patch for a while, so it'll be a bit of a wild wasteland for a bit. But that is sort of the nature of TFT, where every 2 weeks, every additional patch, it becomes a completely different game most of the times. Anyways, yeah, so that is, I think I've said my piece on that. The additional post I wanted to cover, main post today, is by our good pal TFT. I still don't know how to pronounce the name. Converting over another post, just talking about general things about good augments, that sort of plays into the things we're talking about right now of seeing what's good. 1, 2s, 3s, I think is the big, and these are the best performing 6 augments in the meta currently, according to their post. I don't know what metrics of rank we are locking it down by. I would assume at least Diamond Plus, Emerald Plus, what have you, depending on the sample sizes. But yeah, they just kind of go over in this post what are good, which of these are going to be getting changes. I'm going to pull this up on my second monitor. Nope, I pulled up the wrong one. I'm going to pull this up over on my second monitor so I can let you guys see the numbers while I mention any that are getting nerfs. So I believe the silver cybernetic bulk is going from 222 to 200. I do think anyone who's generally playing the game and uses augment stats to support their decisions would say that all of these make sense. I feel vindicated. I haven't looked at the specific best overall placement for some of these augments before, but Vampirism has been, especially Silver Vampirism, has always been a instant click for me. It's such a good augment. Getting that lifesteal, especially with some builds like Ari, it's insane. Annie, it's insane. I guess, yeah, that's TF, I guess, it's pretty good. Pretty much on most of the popular builds right now, it is so good. Also, damn, raining morning. Bulk, really good for the value it gives. I'm surprised that is the only one of these that's getting a nerf. I'm surprised Vampirism 1 isn't getting touched. Stationary support, help is on the way. Also, just so good. Oh, and helping on the way is getting changed from 6 to 8 for choosing that support item. But yeah, those two make a lot of sense. They are giving what feels like the value of a gold augment, but you just have to wait a little bit. Feels really good. Spoils of War 1 is nearly as good as gold Spoils of War, so that makes sense that it's being up there. Yeah, so just kind of a reminder of what augments are good, what to keep your eye out for, and if you had some gut feelings like me about something like Vampirism, just a reminder that that's good. Also, 1, 2s, 3s, the ones that give you the 3 cost, the 1 3 cost, 2 2 cost, and 1 3 cost champion. Am I reading? 3 1 cost, 2 2 cost, 1 3 cost. There we go. I think is going to be also a little bit more valuable in this econ-based meta as well. Because I think that augments like that are sort of econ, but also sort of board strength are going to be really good. Like with that, you can kind of pick and choose what's going to give you the strongest board of that, and then cash out the rest of the gold. Because that is 3, 4. That's 10 gold right there. That's 10 gold that is flexible on if you want to sell it and put it back in your bank, or you want to play it and keep a streak or save health with it. So I was going to say I agree with all these, but it's numbers. It makes sense. Little Buddies being that strong very much surprises me, especially with that high of a pick rate. Something like we're going to look at Golden Egg, which again surprised me that it's that high of a pick rate. But Golden Egg is one of those where you pick it when you have a pretty good idea that you're going to be able to hatch it, which generally means you're in a very good place in your lobby, that you're picking that and you feel comfortable you're going to hatch it. But I'm still surprised it's picked that often. People just like egg gaming. But yeah, anything major about the gold ones? I think almost all of these are getting touched. Yeah. Little Buddy is getting HP nerf. Three's a Crowd is getting an HP nerf. Submit to the Pit, it's battle start instead of changing based on how many units are around you, which is going to hurt Jax a little bit. The True Damage Emblem is getting a nerf. Sleight of Hand is not getting touched. And Crash Test Dummies going from 2 seconds to 1.25 seconds. That is crazy, but understandable, because in 90% of circumstances, Crash Test Dummies is an insta-click because it gives you extra frontline, extra CC. It makes up for the gaps in a lot of bad boards and instantly can stabilize you. That one's incredible. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I have any major comments on these. Sleight of Hand being this good. I did have a Sleight of Hand game the other day that felt really great. I did end up with like 4 Thieves Clubs, so I think that's probably more of getting the most out of an augment like that is always going to be a really good thing. But very surprising that that is performing so well. Submit to the Pit performing that well with that pick rate makes sense because you're only taking Submit to the Pit when you have the ability to play it, and rarely, I guess you could take it at 2-1. It also gives you a unit, if I'm remembering correctly, which is also good for the guidance, but generally you want to take that at 2-1 unless you have it for it. But again, more just keeping you informed on this. And then last one, Prismatic Augments. Oh god, I really should just my roll for my mouse just moves too quickly. Prismatic Augments, I don't think there's anything too outstanding here. I was surprised about how often Jewel Lotus 3 is taken and how good Bulk is. Bulk is like surprisingly good for getting an early win streak, and I think Bulk and a lot of the cybernetics generally just perform really well because they're a good fallback and are a very good benefit of the individual augment reroll situation, where if you get that, you can reroll the other two safely and be like, hey, if I don't hit on this, Bulk's always a really safe thing. I do also think Shopping Spree is really good just for the fact that you can hold the rerolls between rounds. Like you keep them if you don't spend them. So you're able to be like, okay, I'm going to play a level 7 reroll comp, and I'm just not going to use these rerolls until I get to 7 and then have like 15 or whatever it is free rerolls. Let me... Decard rerolls equal to your level. So if I get it and I'm level 3, I level up to 4, so that's before 5, 6, 7. So that would be 21, if I'm doing the math correctly, 21 free rerolls at level 7 for that augment. And then additionally, or you can cash them out a little bit earlier if you hit an early headliner or something that you want. I think that is a sleeper, really good augment. Looks like it's not getting changed as well. I think that will continue to be really good because you are going to be like 21 free rerolls at level 7 is, yeah, that's 42 gold worth of value, as well as the value you get from either not having to hold units because you're able to econ until the point you want to cash out, or health you're going to save from that. So consider playing Shopping Spree. Feels really good, and consider playing it that way instead of you get to the level, spend all your rerolls. You can hold them for a little bit to the place you want to be, and then just have 20 plus rerolls to spend for free at the proper odds that you want. And generally, I think Triforce is, I mean, people know Triforce is good, but even in situations where you don't feel like you want to take Triforce feels really good as well, and these numbers back it up. And of course, Twin Terror having that good of a rate is because you're only really taking Twin Terror in situations where you're able to play it. But yeah, I just wanted to add something else beyond this discussion of the system changes, but there really wasn't much that I don't think was greatly affected by these. There are a little bit of these tidbits. There's a new portal potentially coming. I don't know. I guess we'll know in the patch notes enough if this is coming to live. But the Crav Raid portal, where after stage 5, the PvE rounds are really hard to beat. I think the poster Alish Bean said something like there was 5 or 6 players left and only one was barely able to beat it. So that might be fun. Something to look more into if you're interested. There's a good discussion on what other AP comps are good right now. And it really does kind of seem like Ari and TF, even though TF feels fraudulent sometimes because of the less flexibility in being able to play it, like we talked about last week. And Jax, Lux are reroll comps that you kind of need to hit on and often are contested. Vex is an okay unit, more feels like a companion to a Samira build. Karthus doesn't feel like he's in a good place right now. Maybe that's just because the meta of the other 4 costs are so much stronger. Like, he doesn't feel awful, but just comparative level to either Ahri, which Ahri just wipes the floor with him, or the other 4 costs, Caitlyn, what have you, that are strong. And there are people discussing the post go like, hey, there are 5 costs. You can play Kayn, you can play Ziggs, but you can't build your board, and you've never been able to build your board around a 5 cost, especially with the super omega low, not omega low, 5 cost headliner odds at the higher levels now, which is just not worth it. There's an interesting discussion on what the Forge and Augment I generally avoid because of the variance, but a lot of good discussion on like what's good there, what's bad there, and what situations you would play it. Does like the post entails, and I think a lot of the commentators point towards, it is kind of a bailout if your game's going poorly, or betting on being able to high roll some good either combat or good either econ augments or something to just kind of bail you out. But it is a very high variance thing. And then lastly, something that I'm always wondering about with every build that I have, but not finding a good place to see stats on it, is what Sona you play in what situation. This discussion particularly goes into Jhin carry, but they also talk about in the thread, say in Ahri builds, Twisted Fate, like what Sona they think is best in there. I'm a big fan of healing Sona / attack speed Sona. I don't think I've ever played damage Sona and felt good about it. But yeah, an interesting discussion. Again, the PowerPoint will be in the description / linked at the end of this discussion to let you guys know. So, in summary, before we cap off this another week of Reddit recap and I go and run it down on the Rift, big takeaway, game's about to change. Every time there's a patch, game changes. But I think we're in for a bit of a larger change from now, especially because we've been so entrenched in this patch, and the system changes with streaking, I think, are a pretty major change to how the tempo of games, lobbies, what have you, are going to go. So, my biggest advice coming this Tuesday or Wednesday when the patch goes live, just be wary of what's going on. If you are someone who is concerned about your LP, watch other streamers play, give the game a day or two, or just play normals while you figure it out. I am an idiot. I'm just going to jump right into ranked and learn it that way because I learn best by slamming my head into a concrete wall and seeing how big of a dent I'm able to make. But just in general, I'm not going to act like a soothsayer and say this is exactly how the meta is going to adjust, because the beautiful thing about TFT is that if the meta adjusts in one way, and people find an in to exploit the way the meta is adjusted, they're going to jump in, and then the meta is going to follow that and adjust and ebb and flow because everyone has access to the same resources at 2-1. The best and most catch-all thing I can say is keep your mind open, keep your eyes open, be ready to play flexible TFT, be ready to see what works and what doesn't. If you are not a stat user or stat enjoyer, consider it more during the first couple of days, and especially keep your eyes out, if you're not a stream watcher, keep your eyes out on the competitive TFT subreddit, because there will be a lot of smart people making good posts and having good discussion on what's going on. And you will see a post, and then you will be seeing that all over your lobby once someone cracks the code, and then once someone cracks the counter code to that code, you'll see the post, you'll see it align in your lobby, etc., etc. Main point, TFT is an ever-evolving game. If you are comfortable in the meta right now and you want to get to a rank floor before it changes dramatically, start slamming games is my other piece of advice. But that's about it for this week. Thank you for tuning in to another Reddit recap. I wish we had a little bit more to talk about, but I feel weird talking about anything that is going to dramatically change soon, because it's going to dramatically change soon, and I kind of want to use the show more to look to the future and see what is coming up so you can be aware of it, or at least have a discussion or thought of your own on the changes that are coming. But yeah, I haven't saved untitled. I hope you enjoyed this little Reddit recap, and for y'all on stream, I will post the link to this presentation right now, and for you watching the edited version over on YouTube, oh, that's not the right link, the edited version over on YouTube, the link to this will be down in the description.